availed, and the measures that he had to take to ensure that he doesn't get detected if and when he needed to meet other people.
Nje uma ngezelela futhi kuloko bengikusho ke njengoba bengikhaya ibisebenzisa ke lapho uzothola ubambe lo mhlaba mase qedile aphinde ke anyonyobe kwabanabo ubuchule ke bakhe bokuhlanu bokwazi ukuthi yiza engaphansi kwale mbandile eyayimncinda ukuthi angakwazi ukudibana nabantu angakwazi ukubamba emhlangano kodwa asebenzisa ukuhlakani bakhe bokwazi ukuqhubeka angavimbeki ke la ke ohlelweni lakhe nomzabalazweni wakhe.
And I take it, sir, that all of this information about the secret meetings that Chief Luthuli would have and how he would ensure that the meetings are held, all this information was relayed to you by members of your family?
Yes.
Yebo kunjalo ukuthi konke ke lokho engikhuluma ke ngako qhubeka nami ke ngangitshela umndeni wami.
And just going back to your earlier evidence, you mentioned that the police would come and for lack of a better word, raid your home. Am I understanding you to state that the police or the security branch would come and raid your home even after the death of Chief Albert Luthuli? Am I understanding you correctly in that respect?
You are understanding me correctly. This used to happen when, way after Chief Luthuli's death. When we were teenagers, when I was in high school and when I was at university. Particularly during the 80s, when there was a lot of violence in KZN between, the IFP and the ANC, that very dark period in our history in KZN. We used to get lots of raids in our home from the police.
Impela ungizwe kahle uma ngabe ngithi mina lokho ukuthi ke kugasele ke amaphoyisa ke ngoshova lapha ekhaya impela kwakukade kamvenje kade inkosi yakho Thama bekuqhubeka kwenzakala ke lokho ngiyakhumbula nje nami ngangiselibhobhodlwana ngisemncane ngaze ngayi high school ngandlulela ngaya ke emfundweni ke ephakeme evarsity kakhulukazi kunalesikhathi lapha ngeminyaka ya ngabo 1980 ke lapha okwakuba khona ke leliyafu ke lempi eyayikhona la eKZN la kwakula khona inhlangano iIFP ANC awu yilapho ke impela amaphoyisa ngaleso sikhathi mabandlulula ayingapheli lapha ekhaya kaLuthuli ukungena ke ngoshova.
And just out of interest, sir, do you know what it is that they were looking for in the Luthuli home?
I never knew. We could only speculate. That perhaps maybe they thought the Luthuli home was being used maybe as a base to hide people or weapons, we don't know. I think what was always a problem with the then government is that Chief Luthuli continued to be an inspiration to people. What always is that continue of the MK or people who left to join Umkhonto Wesizwe outside. The Luthuli detachment of MK was actually one of the more popular detachments. So I think that they always felt as if there was something in the Luthuli home that kept inspiring people, and they needed to, to keep watch all the time. So I can't really. They never revealed what they were looking for. They would just barge into your home sometimes, and search and then leave if they don't find anything, and they would never tell you what they were looking for.
Kahle ke kulombuzo ukuthi ngabe banalo ngangingazi yini ukuthi yini labasuke bezoyifuna ngempela nangalesa sikhathi ngangingazi njoba namanje ngangingazi ngale kokuthi ngicabangele phela ukuthi Njengoba phela ke kwasekukhotheme inkosi uLuthuli yayinaleli qhaza elibambile futhi eyayigqugquzeleke kakhulu ebantwini ibe yisibonelo noma ibe umuntu waye bakhuthazileke kakhulu. Babe nokuthi mhlambe lapha ekhaya khona mhlambe abantu esibafihlile noma yikhala ethize efihlwe lapha ekhaya noma khona okuthize okwakukhona lapha ngoba ngasonke isikhathi bazofika nje babheke equle benze yonke lento bangatholi lutho bangachaza nokuchaza ukuthi mhlambe ke bebekade befunani.
Can we go to paragraph 27 of your statement? I take it that in this paragraph, the information relating to Chief Luthuli leaving his home at 6:30, I take it that that information you would have obtained it from your mother, Mrs. Velimina May Luthuli, correct?
Yes, I did.
Yebo kunjalo lokuthi ke kulokushicilela ngakuthatha ke kumama mayelana nokuthi la ngikhuluma khona ukuthi inkosi ngalelango okwehla ngalo isigameko yasuka ekhaya ngekhathi ke zasekuseni gamanxa ihora lesithupha.
What about the information pertaining to the bus and him walking to his shop? Where did you get that information from?
I got that information from archives.
Okay.
So I did analyze, I did go through the archives, the statements that were given in the initial inquest to try and get a sense of firstly the events of the day back in 1967, 21 July 1967. So that I could also relate my own experiences to that. So that information is a combination of direct testimonial, information from people like my father, my mother, as you said, and other family relatives, together with archival information.
Impela ke la lolwazi ke ngikhuluma ke ngalo mayelana ne stop sebhasi egibele ebhasini ulwazi ke engalithola kakhulukazi lapha kunale ndawo bengichazile egcina ke imininingwane ebhalwe phansi ke lapha kuma archives nami ngangifunda ke khona ukuze ngikwazi ukuyihlanganisela olwami olwazi kusuka nje kuqaleni mayelana nodaba lophenyo lokushona kukamkhulu noma inkosi uLuthuli bheka yonke ke zonke lezo statement noma yonke lo mnino ekade ke ikhona ngokuhlanganyela ke nolunye ke lolwazi engangisengilicoshile ke nakumama nakubaba nakwabanye naye njengoba bathi chaza ukuthi umnumzane Mabaso la kwakuyena umuntu owayeyiso noma yomphathi lapha esitolo manager.
Although I did know one of his children, his daughter. So his daughter was quite close to us as a family.
Yizeke umntana wakhe ngangimazi umntaka mnumzane Mabaso ndodakazi wakhe ube umntwana ko sondelene nomndeni wethu.
And the name of the daughter? Does the name Nozizwe ring a bell?
Nozizwe, yes.
Nozizwe ke lo mntwana engikhuluma ngayo.
Paragraph 28 of your statement, you mentioned that the station master would have seen Chief Luthuli walk past the station and that in your belief he was part of the surveillance network created by the security branch. What I'd like to understand from you, sir, besides the two schoolgirls, we'll get to that because I think you mentioned it later on in your statement. When you say that he was under constant surveillance, is it possible that somebody from the security branch would have seen exactly what happened to Chief Albert Luthuli on the 21st of July 1967 at the bridge wherein it is alleged he met the train accident?
Well, my view is that that's quite possible. In fact, it's not only possible, it's probable. Okay? And there are two things that make me say that. If Chief Luthuli was under constant surveillance in his home, okay, he would have been under surveillance in his home, okay. He would have been under surveillance in his. Well, my view is the thing, because the scene of the so-called accident, which is not an accident, is only about 300, 400 meters from the station itself.
Can we just stop there just to give Ms. Kubeka an opportunity?
La izathu ukuthi ngithi mina nalo owaye umaster umphathi walapha station ukuthi ngithi mina owaye umaster station ay unasi nala amaphoyisa obandlulayo khona leso sikhathi ukuthi ekhaya nalapha esitolo wayena ukuthi phela ngaqapha okuthi isitolo esiduzane nalapha nalesa station la khona lo mphathi wale station ingakho ngithi mina amathuba akho maningi ukuthi kwabona ke laba noma amaphoyisa obandlululo okungenza ukuthi mhlambe nababe ingxenye lapha bekhona ngoba phela manje la uma ngabe uma station esebenzisana noma ke nalulwazi okusho ukuthi phela lento lokubulawa kwalobaba okubikwe njenge ingozi okungayona ke ingozi sengisho ukuthi wakubona lesandla mala nohlelo ukuthi yonke ke lento babezoyenza ke kanjani yonke lento eyenzakala.
Just to add to my answer, you will remember that in my testimony I mentioned the white man who approached my father to ask him if he wanted to know how his father died. In the end, we didn't get the information from this white man because my father was just not willing to pay him money to, it was actually an insult. But that incident showed me a few things, or at least there are a few things that you can deduce from that incident, or from what this white man said. The first thing is that it confirms the fact that Chief Luthuli was not killed by a train, that the story that the apartheid government had told was not the correct story, was not the true story, that there was another a true story actually to his death. And the reason I say this is now in response to your question is that you asked whether there could be another person linked to the special branch that could have seen or witnessed the killing of my grandfather. So that is the one possibility.
Let's stop there. Give her a chance.
Isizathu ke manginaba ke nalempendulo yami uyakhumbula ukuthi ke la odabeni lami khona indaba engivezile ngithi mina ngangi lapha edolobheni nobaba wami ubaba kwaba khona ibho noma umlungu thizeni ngalesa sikhathi owabe esethi baba ubaba uyafuna na ukuba nolwazi ukuthola iqiniso ngokufa kababa wakhe okumkhulu wami ukuthi ke kodwa iqiniso saqina singalithola ngenxa ukuthi phela ubaba akazange amkhokhele njengoba lo wayefuna ukuthi amkhokhele ubaba ayikhetha njengenhlamba lokho manje uma leyo nto usuyihlazi uyabona ukuthi kahle kusho ukuthi ngempela kunjalo ukuthi lo mbhedo owachazwe ekuqaleni ukhulumeni obandlululo udaba lokuthi inkosi noma umkhulu wakhothama ngenxa yengozi le yestimela ayilona iqiniso okusho ukuthi kukhona omunye umuntu ohlangene nalolu phiko noma nalowo maphoyisa obanjwe ngalezo sikhathi ke onalo ulwazi noma wasibona isigameko sokubulawa kwamkhulu wami.
The last thing I want to say in response to your question is that it is reported, and it's also in the archives, that Chief Luthuli was seen talking to two schoolgirls just before he crossed the bridge. He spoke to those two schoolgirls for a while and then proceeded en route to the sugarcane fields, which meant he had to cross the bridge. Those schoolgirls are reported to have, because they were the last two people to see him but before the accident. So, and I do say in my statement that one of the girls related a story about what they saw. That they saw, something coming out of the train, hitting my grandfather at the back of the head, and him being pulled towards the train, and then being thrown out onto the rails and onto the walkway. So I doubt that those schoolgirls would have been people linked to this special branch, highly unlikely. But in terms of whether or not there were people who could have seen what happened, yes. The first one being this white man that I spoke about, the second being the schoolgirls.
Futhi ke ukungezelela ke kulokade ngikusho mayelana nalolu daba likaMkhulu. Kukhona ulwazi olugciniwe lukhona lapha ke emqulu noma la gcinwa khona izinto ezamagugu la kuvezwa khona udaba lokuthi ngaphambi kokuba kwehle ingozi noma isigameko lesenzeka ubaba omkhulu noma umkhulu wami kunalamantombazana amabili ababe ngabafundi ngaleso sikhathi agcina noma ibona abagcina ukumbona ngaphambi kokuthi kwehle isigameko lesi. Kulamantombazana nje wabengivele ngichazile ukuthi eyodwa yalamantombazana iyachaza udaba lokuthi hayi yabona ukuthi kena khona into yaphuma lapha ke esitimeleni into ke ayichazile noma ifosholo noma insimbi noma eyashaya umkhulu kwase ukuthi ke sibebonile lokho ke wahudulwa umkhulu la ewele khona wazofakwa kujantshi ke manje duze ke noma lapha ke nojantshi manje lento iyaveza ukusobala ukuthi noma ngingeke ngithi lamantombazanyana wona ayehlobe noma inento yokwenza nalaba ya ontamo olukhulu noma ke la ya amaphoyisa ke isandla siqinile kodwa ke futhi ukhona ke omunye ke la umuntu owabona ohlangene nala maphoyisa ke obandlululo ngokwesigameko.
Thank you, sir. And moving to paragraph 30, where you talk about Luthuli having left the shop around 10 a.m. and making his way to the sugarcane field on the southern side of the river. I take it this information you would have obtained it from the previous inquest record of 1967, which you stated earlier that you did study it and went through it. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Yebo kunjalo njengoba ngikhuluma ukuthi inkosi ehamba lapha ngekhathi zehora leshumi ilibhekise lapha ngasemobeni ohlangothini ke olungaseningizimu nompula loyo. Yebo kunjalo ukuthi nalo lolwazi lolu ngalithatha lapha ke kulolu yadaba lokuqala lwalivuliwe mayelana nokubheka imbangela ukuthi ukukhuthama kwalenkosi kwakukhona isandla semfene na noma mhlawumbe kwakungabekwa ngokuthi ke kwakuwaba ingozi.
In addition, I got this information from Nozizwe as well, because we did talk about this issue with Nozizwe. So he would she did, give me some information about this, because that information would have been related to them by Mr. Mabaso, her father.
Ukungezelela futhi ke lokho bengikusho ke naloku futhi noma lolwazi ngaphinde ngalithola ke kunozizwe esasixoxa ke naye ngoba phela unozizwe ke yena ulwazi lolu baba lithathe kubaba ubaba wakhe kumnumzane Mabaso ke ebaxoxela ke la ngaso isigabeko.
Thank you, sir. And moving on to paragraph 31. From the reading of paragraph 31, one gets the idea that you grew up in Broadville and have extensive experience relating to trains. So can you fight that? I wanted to find out from you, sir, the particular bridge that we've been talking about, the Umvoti Bridge, the bridge that goes over the Umvoti River. Had you ever walked across that particular bridge?
Okay, so when we were growing up as teenagers, that bridge, the particular bridge where Nkulu was murdered or was, attacked, was no longer in use. Okay. There was already a new bridge, the current bridge that is being used. So that is the bridge that we also used. Okay. However, the structure of the old bridge was still there. It wasn't in use, but the structure was still there. Okay. So we did from time to time use that bridge, but specifically when this case started, I also went there to just look at everything, the measurements, the dimensions, to compare them with archival records and all of that. So yes, I'm quite familiar with it.
Kunjalo ukuthi leli bloko okukhulunywa ke ngalo la kulolu daba ngilijwayele ngiyalazi kona ke ngakuchaza ke la ukuthi nje kulo yambuzo wakho bobuza ukuthi indlela engibeke ngayo la kulesi sigaba ngivela njengomuntu okhulele lapha emakhaya. Yebo, nami ngikhulele lapha emakhaya. Lesikhathi ke sikhula ke thina ekukhuleni kwethu leliya bloko lesigameko la kubikwa khona ukuthi kwasocongelwa kwasoconga khona ke umkhulu wami okuyinkosi beningasasebenzi ngalesa sikhathi kodwa bekukhona elinye ibridge okuyilona ke likhona nje manje eselisetshenziswa nje ngijwayele ndawo ngoba bengiya lapha siya lapha noma besingayenjalo okuthe futhi ngasikhathi sekuqala phansi ke manje ukuthi ake kuqale phansi loluphenyo ngake ngaya khona lapha ukuyobheka ukuyokala indlela okume ngakhona nokuqhathanisa nemininingwane le esinayo ke egciniwe lapha ke ukuthi ake kuqale phansi loluphenyo ngake ngaya khona lapha ukuyobheka ukuyokala indlela okume ngakhona nokuqhathanisa nemininingwane le esinayo ke egciniwe lapha ke ekumbili lethu okugcinwa kwezinto ezamagugu.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you say as you were growing up, that particular bridge where the alleged train accident occurred, the structure was still there, although the actual bridge was
block elalilisha.
What I would like to ascertain from you, sir, is the old Umvoti Bridge. Did it look similar to this bridge?
Yes, it definitely did. However, I cannot attest to the dimensions. I don't have a sense of the dimensions here.
Okay.
In fact, when I look at this one, it looks narrower.
Okay.
Than the one in Crowdville. But the general design of the bridge, yes, it is.
Thank you.
Impela ke ngiyangasho ukwakhiwa kwalokufana ukuthi liyafana kodwa angeke ngikwazi ukugcizelela ngokubanzi balo ukuthi mhlawumbe lingani likangako na kodwa lithi malifana naleli ya bridge lesikhuluma ngayo.
I don't understand you. This bridge that you are looking at, the old bridge over which you also walked, look exactly like this, or there are some changes?
My lady, what I'm saying is the general design of the bridge looks like this. Okay?
Of the old bridge?
Of the old bridge. It looks like this bridge. However, I don't have a sense of the dimensions. You know, I don't know whether it's 2 meters from the one end to the other. So I can't attest to the exactness of the design and the exactness of the dimensions. But the sense that I get by just looking at that picture, it looks narrower than the bridge in Crowdville. Certainly the walkway is much narrower.
In the picture?
In this picture.
Okay.
Yes, yeah. But it might just be a visual thing, but the bridge in Crowdville, certainly the walkway was much wider than this one.
You are an engineer?
I'm an engineer by profession, and at some point I actually worked for Transnet. So I'm quite familiar with rail engineering, signaling systems and all of those things.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, Ms. Chen.
Impela ke engakusho ke ukubona nje ukuthi liyafana naleli elidala noma ngingeke ngaqinisekisa kangako kakhulukazi mangibheka leli ngoko la khanje khona ngenyawo sekungathi okuncane kakhulu kunaleli elidala nokulikala phela into moyibuka angeke ifane okayi mhlambe ngoba kuyisithombe ke kona nje futhi ke phela ngisho ngithi ke njengomuntu nami ngunjiniyela ngike ngasebenza na Transnet sikhona ke isipilo sokusebenza ngikwazi ke lokho kodwa ke angeke ngama ke noma ngashaya phansi ngonyaka ukuthi ayi cha lifana ncamashini alo
My lady, just for the record, if my lady can recall, this picture was illustrated by the witness who testified yesterday, Mr.
Yes,
Tulani Tusi, to say that it's the bridge going over the Inchaweni River. I just wanted to place that on record.
Inchaweni River.
Inchaweni River.
Not Umvoti.
Not Umvoti. This one is Inchaweni River. So I should just place it on record.
bridge leli bloho be ileli ke wela ke umfula uNjaweni hayi umvoti.
And
Okay.
but if I can just add to what you're saying.
Okay.
That revelation I didn't know, but it might actually explain the differences. Inchaweni is a much smaller river than the Umvoti River. Although from a technical design perspective, you would not design for the size of the river, if you know what I mean. You design for the train to be able to cross the river. And there are standard design standards that you follow as an engineer when designing, although those standards have changed and evolved over the years. So if they were built at different times, it could be that this Inchaweni bridge would be smaller than the Umvoti River, also given the size of the river and all of that.
Thank you.
Tikufakazi mesengezelela ke phela njengo chwepheshe noma njengomuntu onalo ulwazi phela nje beshilo unjiniyela uthi okokuqala ke ngoba sengizwile ukuthi leli bloho elalo mfulu uNtshaweni imncanyana kanti umvoti uthe ukuba ukuthuthu noma ukuthonda kuba mkhudlwana kunalo sizokhumbula ke noma uyachaza ukuthi uyabona amakuza kwakhiweni kwamabloho kunezinto ezithize ezezivukwe ke futhi nano akoni ukuthi makwakhiwa ibloho kusuke kubhekwe ububanzi bomfula kodwa kubhekwa isitimela qobo leso siwele sizohamba lapho ke ubona kunezinye zezinto eziyeke zibhekelelwe ke ngaphambi kokuthi bese kuthiwa ke kuyakhiwa ibhlorho lelo.
Right, and just for clarity's sake, earlier in your evidence you mentioned that there was a new bridge. Are you talking about that bridge that's reflected on this picture? Is that the bridge that you're talking about?
Yeah, I'm born again.
Okay, you can go closer.
Yeah. Okay. That's the one.
Thank you.
You can just confirm that on record.
Yes, my lord, it's the bridge.
My lady.
My lady, my lady.
Why are people laughing? Is there a difference between a lord and a lady?
Now, that bridge, that new bridge, which you said that you would often walk along that bridge. What I want to find out from you, sir, is when the train on that particular bridge, before it entered the bridge, would there be any vibrations felt on the bridge as it entered or before it's about to enter the bridge?
Yeah, definitely. So, but let me just explain how we would know. In fact, as kids, we would know long before the train arrives that there would be a train that's coming. Okay. Sometimes the train would ring the sirens when it's still a few kilometers away. Okay. If the train driver knows or knew that the train was approaching a built-up area, okay, with communities living around, they would ring the siren. It was one of the safety measures. Okay, it's still one of the safety measures today. So we would know. Sometimes the train would ring the siren before you see it. Okay, you hear the siren. And then secondly, and I mentioned this in my testimony as well, the signals would change from red to green long before the train arrives, a few minutes before the train arrives. So that would be the second way of knowing that there's a train coming. Thirdly, if you were next to a railway crossing where cars cross the thing, there would be a bell that would ring to signal that the train is coming. And some of the railway crossings in those days also had booms, where before the train gets to the railway crossing, the boom would close.
Maybe let's just stop there so that he can be able to interpret, sorry.
Ke uma nginaba ke mayelana nodaba kunalombuzo bongibuza ukuthi ngabe kunjalo na ukuthi uma kusondela mhlambe noma ngaphambi kokuthi sindlule noma sisondele nebhlorho isitimela mhlambe ke ibhlorho le noma ujantshi uba nokunyakaza noma mhlambe nokuvibrate uthi ufakazi ake ngicacise ngalendlela la uma ngabe isitimela siza sisele kude kakhulukazi ke abashayeli bezitimela ke basuke benalwazi uyofinyele noma usondela endaweni mhlambe indawo nomphakathi kwindawo enabantu kuba nalo kamsindo kokumemeza kwesitimela uzozwa singaqhamisha uqhamo kuzo lo kamsindo lo uxwayisa ke la bangeni ke la lisathe libe kude futhi ke okunye ke la uzothola ukuthi kunala ngolimi la manje ngizothi irobot imbali yashintsha futhi ishintsha nje sisekude so uyazi ukuthi uma ngabe nje bosushintsha usuka kokubovu uya kokuhlaza kusho ukuthi ke isitimela sesiyeza kwezinye indawo ukuthola ukuthi khona la ujantshi wesitimela kodwa thothi kunemoto ezeqaya khona lapha kuze kube nale into elawula sipheceleza iboom gate le ekwazi ukuthi induku lephakamayo iphinde yehle ozothola ukuthi ngenxa ukuthi isitimela sesiyeza lapho kulowo mzila ivale yehleke la lensimbi ukuxwayisa noma ukwazisa lezi ezinye imoto ukuthi asafanele ukuthi zisebenzise uthi futhi nalapho kuba nomsindo wakhona futhi oyinkomba noma osukuxwayisa ke la ngokuthi ke isitimela sesiyeza.
And then sorry, and then coming back to your issue of vibrations, okay, so that would be another way of knowing that the train is coming. In fact, you would feel the vibrations even when you're not next to a bridge. Just on normal ground, if you're next to the train or on the pairway, you would feel the vibrations, and then you would know that the train is coming. But the vibrations were accentuated when you're on the bridge because of the structure. They are dammed on normal ground because it's firm ground, but on a bridge, the bridge sits on a structure, so the vibrations are accentuated, as I say. So you feel it even more when you're on the bridge. So there is no way, and this is the point I'm trying to make, there is no way that Chief Luthuli would not have known that there's a train coming, with all of his senses being activated, you know. So that's the point I'm trying to make.
Uphendula ke la kulolu daba lokuthi ke uma kuza isitimela ujantshi noma ibhlorho leli linyakaze ke la angikuphendule ngalendlela nginabe ke kuleli phuzu uma ngabe nje isitimela useceleni nje ngithi awukho uqobo buduze ke nojantshi vele uma ngabe siza noma siyahamba isitimela la emhlabathini nje eceleni uyezwa lo kunyakaza komhlabathi manje uma ngabe ke ulapha qobo ke manje ebhlorhweni ngoba phela khumbula ukuthi ibhlorho lona alikho phansi nje emhlabathini kodwa limiselwe libekelwe ibhlorho okwenza ukuthi ukuzwakala kokunyakaza noma phece lo kunyakaza lo msindo limiselwe okwenza phece lo msindo umandla kakhulu ukuthi wayengeke umkhulu inkosi iwuzwe kakhulukazi uma ubheka ngokwesimo sakhe njengoba isesimeni sakhe esikahle ngqondweni zakhe konke kukahle ngoba phela umsindo lokho umsindo uyazwakala nje kahle kakhulu.
So to drive the point home, even if the narrative that was perpetuated then to say that Luthuli was half deaf and half blind, one thing is for sure, he would have at least felt the vibrations of the train as it was entering the bridge.
Yes.
Yebo impela ke ngimile kuloko ukuthi noma ke bechaza lokho ababekushilo ngalesa sikhathi bethi umkhulu wayengasaboni kahle emahlweni futhi wayethanda ukuphazamisa ewengezwa wayeseyisithuli kodwa kulo wamsindo wama ukuthi njengoba lapha ebridging wayengeke kahle ukuthi lo msindo kuzamazama ke manje umsindo wovibrator ke ukuthi manje nasi isitimela sizodlula.
Let's go back a little bit to what you testified to earlier. It's also contained in paragraph 32 of your statement, where you said there is a report pertaining to 2 schoolgirls having been in the company of Chief Luthuli before he entered the bridge. Just wanted to find out, where did you obtain this report?
This report, again, I obtained it from the archival records, but also at some point I was trying to locate one of these girls because I had heard, and I remember I had extensive discussions with the chairperson of the museum at the time, Mr. Zakele Gumede, you know, who said to me, in fact, one of those little schoolgirls, she was not a schoolgirl obviously at the time when we were talking, which was around 2015, 2016, or 2017, somewhere there, that she was a nurse, a sister. I don't know if sister is an official term for a senior nurse, but Sister Bonga. She was working, or she worked at the Stenger Hospital at some point. And then apparently then she moved to Mpumalanga. Oh, sorry, one of the other girls was in Mpumalanga.
Okay, let's stop it there for just to allow her to interpret.
Uthi-ke la uma sikhuluma ngalo daba lolu lokuthi ngikhulume ngalamantombazanyana esikolo ubaba noma umkhulu abonana nawo ngaphambi kokuthi ke kwehle isigameko. Cha, impela kunjalo ukuthi konke lolo lwazi ngalithatha lapha emqulwini la kugcine khona ke izinto. Ngaze ngakhuluma no okuyena ke lapha ke owayeusihlalo wemuseum lapha uZakhele Gumede, saxoxa ke kabanzi nokuyilapho ngathola khona ukuthi khona ngalesikhathi esikhuluma yize phela kwangaseyona amantombazanyana kodwa ke ngoba sikhuluma lapha mhlawumbe 2015, 2016, 2017 kwavela ke igama lika Bonga ukuthi enye amantombazanyana noma la amantombazana sasikhathi wayeke esewusistela noma umhlengikazi onezimendlela uthe thuthu kwathiwa khona isikhathi aba umhlengikazi lapha eStenga, esibhedlela sakhona eStenga. Kodwa lena intombazane yona ingxoxo kwavela ukuthi engathi yale kuMpumalanga.
Yes. So, and the reason why Mr. Gumede knew of Sister Bonga is firstly because she apparently lived at first in Groudville and then north of Stenger, as you go towards Kwamapumu. But secondly, because Mr. Gumede was on the board of Stenger Hospital, so he knew that Sister Bonga was in the area. So when this whole process, or when the family was trying to restart this whole process, I wanted to try and make sure that Sister Bonga gives a testimony in this inquest. But as I say, my efforts were cut short, and there were other reasons, but I could not see that through.
Njoba bese ngichazile la udaba ukuthi lesikhathi ke sixoxa ke lapha ke no Gumede ke lo wayeusihlalo lapha ke museum. Sizokhumbula ukuthi yena khona isikhathi lapha ake abakhona ke ilunga lase boarding noma ke le member ze board lapha esibhedlela saseStenga, nokuyilapho kwavela khona phela lo Bonga ukuzaza akhulume ngayo. Ubeke wahlala phela lapha endaweni yase Groudville kuyindawo ke inyakatho nendawo leya lapha kaStenga mangathi uya kaMaphumulo. Manje ke ilapho ke lesikhathi sivusa lolu daba ke ngangizama imizamo phela nje umuntu obelapha esibhedlela ukuthi simthole. Bengichazile vele izathu ukuthi akuzange kwazi ukuthi kube impumelelo ekutheni ke naye ngimthola, ngoba inhloso yonke ukuthi lo owayintombazana ngalesa sikhathi ukuthi naye mhlawumbe anikezelele ngencazelo yakhe noma ngestatement esakhe ke kulolu daba.
And do you know the first name of Sister Bonga?
It was mentioned to me, but what I remember is Sister Bonga because we just used to call her Sister Bonga.
Igama lalo njengoba kwasho ukuthi Sister Bonga besijwayele ukumbiza ngoSister Bonga nje lo.
And this was back in 2016.
Yeah. Can't be exact in terms of the timing, but it was around 2016, 2017, that time period.
Noma ngeke ngisho ngokuthi kwakuyile khathi lezo 2015 2016 20 nje phakathi kwalezo khathi lezo.
Maybe even up to 2018 that I was investigating this thing.
Mhlambe kwazi kwafikela lapha kunyaka ka2018 ngoba ilesikhathi engase ngiphenya lolu daba noma ngilandelela lolu daba.
So if Sister Bonga is alive to this day and is a person who was in the company of Chief Albert Luthuli on the 21st of July 1967, you would like her to come before this court and give her evidence?
Most definitely, most definitely.
Impela kunjalo ukuthi uma ngabe ukuthi kena usister lo Bonga usaphila lapha khona ngakujabulela kakhulu noma ngingakuthanda ukuthi ke naye njengomuntu okuyena abagcinwa kubonakala naye mkhulu azonikezela ngofakazi bakhe.
And the other school girl, do you have any information relating to the other school girl?
Very little information. So there is a certain Mr. I think it's Mr. Dlamini, who used to be a member of Mkondo Wesizwe, and I got to know about him through one of my aunts and one of my cousins. This man had apparently always been fascinated by how Mkulu died, and the whole mystery surrounding Mkulu's death. And so he had started when they came back, when the ANC was unbanned and Mkondo Wesizwe came back into the country. He then started doing some investigations, and I think at some point he was part of the intelligence agencies, and so he's the one who said to me that he had actually found the other girl who was now in Mpumalanga. But to go and find the girl, and he had apparently spoken to her. Mm-hmm. But for us to make all the arrangements to go see them and engage the services of this Mr. Dlamini, it required quite a lot of money, and due to financial constraints, we could not pursue that matter further.
Uma ngikhuluma ngodaba lentombazane lesibili incane kakhulu ke engathi ke ngakuthola kophenyo lami mayelana naye ngoba kunalo ubaba ke uDlamini la engamazi ngo auntie nabazala bami. Lo baba uDlamini ke lesikhathi sekubuya ke manje iANC nalabo bomkhonto wesizwe ababesekudingisweni ukuba umuntu oba nomfutho nokulandelela ukwazi ukuthi ngabe ngempela kwenzakalani ngokushona ke kwamkhulu, ukuthi ke uyena futhi wayenza ubuhlolo bakhe noma ukulandelela liyona lento bazoba kwathothise Mpumalanga, futhi kahle kahle yena wayeseke wakhuluma ngisho nokukhuluma nayo intombazane le, ukuthi ke manje ke ngokushona ke kwamkhulu yenza ubuhlolo bakhe noma ukulandelela liyona lento bazoba kwathothise Mpumalanga, futhi kahle kahle yena wayeseke wakhuluma ngisho nokukhuluma nayo intombazane le, ukuthi ke manje ke ngenxa yokuthi ukuze kwaze ukuthi kuxhunyana lo baba uDlamini kwakufuneka ke imali futhi ke ibiza, ikona ke okwangishaya ke la ukwazi ukuthi kuhlanganiswe ke yonke lento ke nokwenza ukuthi ke bese kungasaphuma.
Is he still alive?
The last he was a healthy man. I think he's still alive. And, expand too much on this matter, because even though I tried to pursue all of those facts and try to get the two women, those efforts did not yield any positive results, at least at the time, for various reasons that I've just stated. So I didn't expand on it too much, except to say that it looks as if those two schoolgirls, okay, are still alive.
Kona ke ngangadibana ke naye kabili ephilile ngisho ngithi uyaphila ngokwalezo simo. Kona ke angizange ke la njengoba ubona ngazange sanaba ke kakhulu lapha ke sanimele sami ngalamantombazana kodwa uma ubheka ngokwalezimo lamantombazana omabili babuka ngathi amantombazana omabili babuka ngathi basaphila bobabili.
Do you at least have the name of that other schoolgirl?
Yeah, I have it in my records, Advocate Chwene. If the court requires it, I could supply it later.
Thank you.
Nginawo amagama noma igama laleli intombazane akhona lapha la gcine khona into zami kuma record ami uma uthi inkantolo ke iyadinga lo mniningwane ngingakwazi ukuthi kuthi kamveni bese ngiyanikezelela ngayo.
Are your records easily accessible as you stand there, or you require time?
I would require time. Some are electronic, they would be on my laptop, but some are hard copies at home, so I would need some time, my lady.
Ms. Chwene, I
My
think
lady?
that would help if you get the names.
Definitely, my lady. We will be in contact with Mr. Luthuli
Yes.
to see if we can obtain those records and then inform.
Yes, Mr. Luthuli, I appreciate if you can make an effort to get us more contact details of the other lady.
I will do
Who is
so.
no longer a school girl, of course.
I will do so.
Thank you.
Thank you. And just to go to paragraph 35 of your statement, the information pertaining to the workers in the cane field having confirmed that Chief Luthuli never arrived at the cane fields, 1967 inquest record.
Yes. Yes.
Towards the end, I think. Before permission to hand over the statement to the witnesses
Yes,
for him
thank
to
you,
have a
certainly, may
look
do
at
that.
it. Does that statement look familiar to you? The one of ZP Gumede?
Yes, I have seen it. It does look vaguely familiar because, as I say, I have gone through so many of these documents. Yeah.
Okay. And if you turn over the page to the last paragraph,
Yes.
that's where it is confirmed by the said ZP Gumede that Chief Luthuli on that particular day never arrived at the sugarcane field.
Fields, yes. Yeah. And Advocate Chwene and my lady, I don't know if I feel I need to explain why I raised this issue in my affidavit. I raise it because it contradicts the statement of the train driver. You see, the cane field that we're talking about is on the other side of the river. When I say the other side, the Durban side of the river, okay? Mkhulu was coming from the northern side of the river, crossing the bridge to the southern side towards the cane field. Now, there are only 2 points where you can enter the bridge. It's at the northern side, the northern end of the bridge, or the southern end of the bridge. Now, the train driver says Mkhulu emerged from the side and entered the bridge and went straight onto the tracks. And he seemed not to see the train, and he couldn't stop on time, and that's how Mkhulu got knocked out. But the issue here is that if Mkhulu had entered the bridge from the southern side of the river, then it means that he would have been already coming back, you see, perhaps going back to the shop, you see. And that's not the case, because the witnesses, the people at, and the workers on the cane field do say that you know, Chief Luthuli never arrived. So the testimony of the train driver is obviously in doubt, and in my view, clearly false.
Isizathu ke uqinisekisa statement lesi somunye ufakazi uZiphi owayesebenza ke lapha eMobeni owenza statement esokuqinisekisa ukuthi ngalelanga inkosi uLuthuli ayizange ifike lapha ke eMobeni. Kanti uthi isizathu ukuthi ngize ngicaphune kangaka noma ngigxile ke la kulesi ngihlanganise statement ingoba phela manje ngithi uma ngithatha ubufakazi bamshayeli westimela nale statement kuyashayisana phela shayeli westimela nale statement kuyashayisana phela manje ngoba ngokusho komshayeli umshayeli uchaze umkhulu ukuthi waqhamuka sohlangothini lasenyakatho eqhamuka ke ngaphambili la ngale engaboni uthi futhi manje ke kwase ku late embona ke njengoba eseza ehamba la ngaphakathi ke kujantshi engasakwazi ukuma nokuyilapho kabe semhlafaza noma ke kwaba ukulimala ke kwakhe okuyinkulumo phela manje esiphambana uma ubheka inkulumo yalabasebenzi ngoba phela abasebenzi bathi uma uthi wayiqhamuka lo hlangothi uhlangothi seliqhamuka eMobeni lezokusho mhlambe ngenze ukuthi wayesebuyele esitolo noma wayeseya kuphi ekubeni ngokobufakazi ke lobo buvezwe noma kulaba la isuka khona umkhulu wayesasuka ngapha esitolo esaya khona lapha eMobeni ke manje lokho sokwenza ukuthi manje ke kuphambane nengibona ukuthi ngempela uma ngikuhlaziya ke nami lento nje ngempela umshayeli walesitimela nje lokho ayichaza nje kwakuwamampunge nje kwakwamanga hlaza kwakunjalo.
So sir, in a nutshell, reading your entire statement and everything you have explained in your statement, it appears that you are of the firm belief that Chief Albert Luthuli was in actual fact murdered.
I am of the firm belief that Chief Luthuli was murdered and that there was a cover-up of this murder. I also believe that the murder could only be related to his political activities, because Chief Luthuli was not a man that anyone would want to murder. He was a simple man. He did not insult anyone. He did not, just his whole nature and stature was such that he could not attract any criminal activity. Okay. So, criminal activity that's outside of politics. So, the only people who would want him murdered would be the apartheid government.
Shontsho ukuthi ngempela umkhulu inkosi uLuthuli yasocongwa, yabulawa qobo. Manje futhi umkhulu ke akuyena nomuntu engathi waye umuntu ongaba nezitho ukuthi mhlawumbe umuntu othuka abantu mhlawumbe umuntu wayenza into ezubugebengu eziphambene ngale kwale nkolelo yohulumeni obandlululo kulento zomkhakha wezombusazwe okuyilapho ke okwakungamphambanisa nombuso wobandlululo ngaleso sikhathi leso. Ngoba ke ukubulawa kwakhe kwakuhlangene nakho lento yezombusazwe ke la impela wabulawa ngenxa yento zepolitiki.
Thank you, my lady. I have no further questions for this witness.
Mr. Edu?
That's a good reason for it. I don't have.
Oh, sorry, the witness wants to add something.
Yes, my lady. I have something that I would like to add. Something which is related to paragraph 40 of my statement.
Thank you.
And that relates to the issue of justice. That as family, we have always sought justice when it comes to this. And we have always seen justice as coming in various forms. The one is uncovering the truth, and we believe that this inquest needs to do that. It's uncovering the truth so that the truth is known and the history books are corrected. Because the history records of this country say that Chief Luthuli was either killed by train or he died under mysterious circumstances. Both of those statements are not true statements. And so part of what we believe this inquest needs to do is to really establish the truth. For the benefit of the family, but for the benefit of South Africa at large, and for correction of history. The second point that I want to make is that we believe also that justice needs to come in the form of reparations. Chief Luthuli worked most of his adult life for the ANC. He never received a single cent from the ANC. He was never paid a single cent. In that time, whilst other fathers and other grandfathers were working to look after their families, our family was suffering. And for such an injustice not to be attended properly constitutes an injustice. So that would be the second aspect. Okay? The third aspect of justice, at least as we see it, as family, is that the people who committed this crime needed to be prosecuted and, if found guilty, imprisoned. This did not happen. It hasn't happened. All of these people that we're talking about, the train driver, the conductor, and many of the others, have died. And the reason is that we did not reopen this inquest timelessly. And the question is why? A normal person would have expected the ANC government to reopen these inquests. And it's not just our family. There are many others. The Credok 4, the Griffiths Nkenge, there are many others. This did not happen. We believe that this court needs to establish why that did not happen. And my lady, I will say what some of us believe. And it's not just a belief, it's a justified belief. It's that there was a deal between the nationalist government and the ANC not to prosecute these cases. It's not just a conspiracy theory. It is not just an unjustified belief. We believe that it is a justified belief and it's true. In fact, I could go on in terms of explaining to this court why that is the case, but I won't.
Yes.
I won't, except to say
it is out of the terms of the reopening of the inquest.
But my lady, it impacts directly on the issue of justice, which is what I think this court is supposed to dispense. It cannot be that these inquests are suppressed for 30 years, 31 years now, until the people who are guilty die, and then it's okay to open them after that. Something is amiss there, and it's a gross injustice that has been perpetuated. We talk about the injustice of the apartheid government, but unfortunately, the current government, ANC government, is also responsible for the perpetuation of these injustices. It's an unfortunate situation. Chief Luthuli was one of their greatest presidents, and this is how they treated him. And we believe that if the truth behind this is not revealed, that it would be a continuation and a perpetuation of all the injustices that have happened in the past.
Thank you. Mr. Tunya, do you have questions for the witness?
None, my lady.
Mr. Ngobo?
Questions that have been covered by what my colleague has dealt with. There is from Exhibit D, the old inquest documents, the post-mortem report that was compiled by Dr. Jacobus Johannes van Zyl. And what is noted from there, and I need just your comment from what you established as you grew up, the person who identified the body of the deceased to the conductor of the inquest was a certain Mr. Eric Cili. What was his relation to the family, this Eric Cili?
Sorry, it's Exhibit D, what page?
It's Exhibit D. I'm referring to the post-mortem. I think it's page 468. 468, the face of the inquest, of the post-mortem report. May I just share my electronic version with the witness? What was this person's relation to the family?
The issue of Mr. Cili is a mystery to me as well. Okay. He was not a friend of the family. Nowhere do any family members, at least the ones that I've spoken to, make any reference to Mr. Cili. In fact, I asked my mother just yesterday evening, because this Mr. Cili, I think if I recall from my reading of the documents, he claims to have gone to the Luthuli home to report that Chief Luthuli was in hospital. And he says he didn't find anybody. And then he waited for a period of about 2 hours in one of the neighbors' houses, hoping that someone would come, and then he would then be able to report the incident. There are Qilis, I think there are at least 2 Qili families in the area of Groundville. But this particular Mr. Qili doesn't seem to be, and I can't say that our family is friends with those Qili families, okay? But this particular one, nobody seems to know him. Okay. I did ask my mother, I said, Ma, you were the person who was at home when this incident happened. Did a Mr. Luthuli contact you? My mother says she was informed by somebody. She can't remember who this person is, the name, but it was a male figure, okay? But then, it obviously couldn't have been Mr. Qili, because Mr. Qili says
Found nobody.
he found nobody. So his role in this whole thing is a bit strange.
Cha abamazi ke lochile kuyena ovezwe nje umuntu kuyena owaqaqula noma owakhomba ke isidumbu ke sikamufu, ngoba uthi naye izolombuzile uma wakhe kodwa kuma wakhe wangamazi ngophela uma wakhe wayekhona ekhaya, kodwa lochile uthi yena ekuyeni kwakhe lapha kwakungekho umuntu, wayeselindile linde mhlawumbe khona into ozoqhamuka akwazi ukuthi ambikele ngalodaba. Yize bekhona endaweni ochile laba ababili kodwa ngeke lo asimazi kahle.
Yes. My lady, the Qili also is a deponent to a statement that was filed or was simply handed in the original inquest. I'm just looking for a page so that the court can cross-reference, but I won't take it any further with regard to him in particular, just so that the court has easier cross-referencing. It's page 496.
Of Exhibit D.
Of Exhibit D, yes. It's an affidavit of Eric Tembinkosi Qili, a rank manager at Stenger. Yeah.
Is it the same name?
Eric.
If at all it is a Qili.
It is Eric Qili, yes. He in fact in that affidavit.
Do you mean
wisely,
Exhibit D or E?
Is it?
Because my Exhibit D ends with page 491.
The old inquest is volume B. It starts from pages 447 to 506, and we marked it entirely as an Exhibit D.
D, oh, okay.
Yes.
So it's Exhibit D,
It's Exhibit.
which is in volume
It's in volume B.
B. Thank
Yes,
you.
correct.
Thank you.
Correct, my lady. Yes. We handed this.
No.
through
I thought you meant volume D.
No. Exhibit D. The
Exhibit D.
volume itself is a volume B.
Okay, now I've got it now.
Yes. And as my lady correctly points it out, maybe you can comment. In that statement, the conclusion is that it's the same Qili. In paragraph, although the paragraphs are not numbered, 1, 2, 4. In paragraph number 4 of his statement, he indicates, if I may read it and you can comment, he says, on the 21st of July 1967, I went to Stenger Provincial Hospital, where on arrival I learned from the hospital staff that Chief Luthuli has died. Later the same day, I accompanied members of the South African Railway Police to Stenger Hospital mortuary, and there I was shown the dead body of the Bantu male adult, which I identified to the hospital authorities as being that of Chief Albert John Luthuli, resident at Crowdville Mission Reserve, who was my, he says, my grandfather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, as I say, my view is that this Mr. Qili was someone who was handpicked by the regime to confirm certain things that were designed to cover up the crime. Okay, because I think that firstly, he's not. I don't know how he used the word grandfather, but he's certainly not a grandchild of Chief Luthuli, unless he was using the term generally to mean out of respect. Yeah. That's the first point. The second point is that I think at some point in his statement, and I stand to correction there, my lady, because it's been a while that I last read that. But I think he says that Chief Luthuli was blind or half blind and deaf. All of the things that the government was saying, so I interpreted his statement as, because he doesn't seem to be a cop, a police, or his role is not clear in this whole thing. So I just interpreted as someone perhaps who had been just handpicked to tell lies so that the whole murder could be covered up.
So in essence, from your growth in the family, you know of no Qili, Eric Qili, a so-called grandchild of Luthuli?
I don't.
You
I
don't.
don't. As I said,
Okay.
I know of it, I think at least 2 Qili families in the Crowdville area. But I and the family was never really close to them. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe lastly, on my part, the other aspect I wanted to hear from you, you indicated to the court that at about age 8, your father then built the house at the shop, and you would then either live there or at the main house. In other words, you had 2 houses. Can you comment on the population, if I may put it, for lack of a better word, dynamic of the area of Gledo? How was the population there?
You're talking about the population demographics.
Yes, demographics. Thank you for the word.
Okay. Gledo,
As you grew up, yes.
yes, yeah.
Yes.
So the greater Gledo Nkukwini area, okay, had 3 predominant population groups. Yes, okay. It was the Zulu people, obviously, who were part of the area, and then not far from the Gledo sugar mill, there was a big Indian population there. Okay, and they were on the opposite side of, so across the railway line from where our home was. To the west of our home, there was a big population of Mpondo people, Amampondo. Amampondo had been brought by the white people who owned the big sugarcane farms and the sugar mills. They'd been brought from the Eastern Cape to come and work in the sugarcane fields in that area.
Okay.
So those were the population demographics
Of that area.
of the Kledong Kukwini area. But they were different from the demographics of the population around the original Luthuli home, the museum.
Yes.
The population around the museum was just Zulu people who had always been there, and it had been families that had been there for generations. In fact, when we grew up, we knew almost everybody in the area. You know, you knew Gucci, lapha kwamqwebu, lapha kwamzoneli kanjalo kanjalo kanjalo. Yeah, so that's
That's all.
Uthi-ke ufakazi mechaza kokuqala-ke uke wanaba ngalo Chili, Eric Chili, uthi cha ngempela-ke akamazi yize kuye kwavela kunalesi statement anikezela ngaso lapho esho khona ukuthi wathe lapha esibhedlela wezwa ngodaba lokukhothama-ke kwenkosi, uthi kwathi-ke kamveni-ke wabe sebuya nephathimandla zakaloliwe namaphoyisa lapha esibhedlela wezwa ngodaba lokukhothama-ke kwenkosi, uthi kwathi-ke kamveni-ke wabe sebuya nephathimandla zakaloliwe namaphoyisa. Yebo, ngichazile udaba lokuthi ngithe sengineminyaka elapha-ke ngisewumfanyana ngangineminyaka ewu-8 ubaba nomama basebaya-ke. Yebo, ngichazile udaba lokuthi ngithe sengineminyaka elapha-ke ngisewumfanyana ngangineminyaka ewu-8 abomdabu waseNdiya, bese kuthi lapha ngaphesheya-ke futhi la bhekana nala ekhaya bekugcwele laba abaqhamuka ngale abasempondweni kaloku bezophangela kwelo cala ke bona bebaninzi ngwalo bathathwa ngale abomdabu waseNdiya ubuyibona abantu abadugcwele futhi lapha indlela besakhe ngayo amakhala ukuthi uyakwazi ukuthi lapha kasibanibani lapha nje endaweni thothi niyazana nje uyamazi osipana ngendlela obekuyiyona kulolu hlangothi loluyalaka lalapha ekhaya elikhulu.
My lady, I have no further questions.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Msimang. Yes, thank you. Just a point to add to this issue of the grandfather. In paragraph 2 of your statement, no, paragraph 5 of your statement, you state that you happen to be the eldest grandchild. Or am I reading it correctly? Eldest Luthuli grandson.
I'm the eldest Luthuli grandson.
Yes.
So Chief Luthuli did have another grandson before me, or prior to my birth, and his name is Mutsumi Ngakane.
Okay.
So he's the daughter of Dr. Albert. Sorry, he's the son of Dr. Albertina Luthuli. But I'm the eldest Luthuli grandson.
So Chili can't be. No, don't explain.
No, I'm trying to explain. No, clearly there's no Chili who's a grandson of Chief Luthuli.
Okay, thank you.
Chachaleka Chili impela ngikhahlela ngenyawo zombili impela ukuthi akekho nje umzukulu kaMkhulu lo yebo kona ke njoba kuvela ukuthi mina kubazukulu bamkhulu ke manje ke la kaLuthuli ngokuqala. Yebo ukhona kodwa kubazukulu bamkhulu ke manje ke la kaLuthuli ngokuqala. Yebo ukhona kodwa ke omunye umzukulu
Siblings in Durban. Do you know at what time she would have left? Or you never got to know exactly when she left?
My lady, I never got to know at what time she left. But it would have been quite early. Again, this is speculation. But when we were growing up, we used to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. As kids, the moment you started going to school, you had to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, do your morning duties, before, washing or bathing, and then getting ready for school. But I remember that when we woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning, porridge would already be boiling in the kitchen, which means that Gogo would have woken up much earlier.
Much earlier.
Yes. So she used to wake up around 4 o'clock, sometimes even earlier. So yeah, I'm not quite sure when she left for Durban, but it would have been quite early.
Noma ngenaso isiqinisekiso sokuthi ngabe ugogo ngalelanga wahamba isikhatsini eya lapha ke eThekwini uma ebuzelwa ngalolu suku lolu njengoba phela kwakuvele mhlawumbe watshela uma wakho ukuthi uhambe early ukuyofuna ke imbewu ezinye izinto ayifuna laphana uthi ke cha kahle kahle thina sikhule besivuka nje u5 funeke ingubo yayikhahlela njoba ke sesivuka nje wenza imisebenzi ethize laphana uyageza uyandlula ke laphana vele esikweni kwethu vele liyaqapha lapha eParish ugogo nje kusho ukuthi ngempela bevuka ngaphambi kwethu kusho ukuthi bevuka early kakhulu ukudlula lokhu thina ebekade sikuvuka ngoba phela bekuyinto yenjwayelo umuntu ovuka mhlawumbe lapha ko4 kodwa nje bevuka kakhulu gogo.
Now clearly says in his statement that is referred to in Exhibit B that he saw Chief Luthuli. He last saw him alive at about 6:30 a.m. on the morning of that day, standing at a bus stop. Now, according to your statement, you say that what was related to you is that he left home at 6:30 or soon thereafter because your grandmother had already left. How long does it take to walk from the Luthuli home to the bus stop?
It doesn't
10 minutes?
take that long. So
The point I'm at is whether, suppose your grandfather left at 6:30 a.m. or soon thereafter, it could have been 7. Because we know from the records that on that particular day he woke up slightly later than usual because he had been up doing some writings and he only went to bed during the wee hours of the morning, so he woke up later than your grandmother. By the time he woke up, your grandmother had already left. Now, how feasible is it that a person who leaves after 6:30 a.m. would be seen by Kili also at 6:30 a.m. at the bus stop?
My lady, my answer to that, I actually don't see a contradiction for a few reasons. The first reason is that walking from our home to the bus stop doesn't take long. For a young, maybe 12, 15 minutes, something like that. That's the first reason.
Was 59 or 60 or something?
He was 69.
69, yes.
But he could walk. So that's why I make that differentiation between a younger person and an older person. But the difference would be maybe 2-5 minutes at the most. Okay, it's not far. When I say it's not far, it's maybe about 1 kilometer or even less. Okay, so that's the first point. But the second point, it's just that when we write our statements, we write 6:30. because somebody said kwaku past 6. And past 6 sometimes can be 25 past, it can be 25 to 6. So past 6 in the general scheme of things, uma tell me past 6 ku 25 past, asuku umuntu awufika bus stop ngu 25 to 7, nalo se bus stop uzothi ngambona ngo past 6. Abonde ngisho.
Okay. Yes, Ms. Kopeng.
Just to start from where the witness has just told, that normally randomly people will normally refer about, like, for instance, if the time is about half past 6, the person will still stating half past 6, even though maybe it's about 25 past, but the person will be saying that it's 25, it's half past, even if it's 25 to. But the person will be still saying around half past. So similar to this position, a person may say that he had left at around about half past and reached the bus stop at about 25 to. But it depending as to how the person will be walking. However, even the person will meet or see that person at the bus stop will be still referring to the same time as around half past. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm just quoting what the witness had stated in isiZulu. Uma siqhubeka ke la ufakazi bebuzwa ngodaba lesikhathi ukuthi kunofakazi lo okhulume ngodaba lokuthi wambona ngo 6:30 lapha estopini sebhasi umkhulu ukuthi la ngokwestatement zofakazi makuvela ukuthi wahamba lapha ekhaya ngo 6:30. Ufakazi ila eyibeka khona ukuyicacisa lo ka 6:30 ukuthi akaboni mehluko noma nakushayisana kulo ngendlela abantu nje indlela abantu abalibonga khona iwashla ngendlela abachaza ngakhona lo 6:30 okungeza mhlambe umuntu uhambe ngaphambilini kwaloko kodwa kwaukuthi uma isechaza yena nje uvele beligamenxe kwara lesithupha ngale kokuthi mhlambe noma seku 25 to noma sekusikhatsini yingakho ke yena ufakazi ezothi angeke inkosi yenkantolo ngithi lesi sikhathi sitshekile noma sijani ekhaya nalapha estopini kwakungakudanga yebo phela sekuncike umuntu osemncane mhlamba ngahamba ibanga mhlambe engangemzuze elishumi omunye ke mhlamba osethanda ukukhula ke mhlambe ngezeleleke ngeminye imizuzu mhlambe emibili noma ke emithathu kodwa nje lilonke engikusho ukuthi akukude ibanga. Thank you, madam.
Yes. Another point that I'd like you to enlighten the court on, as a rail engineer, do you know or did you get some information on why the old bridge was abandoned such that we have only the pillars and the new one constructed?
No, my lord, I never did. I did try to contact Transnet at the time, but for different reasons. It was to find out if they had any internal records, because the procedure within Transnet is that if you have an accident like that, there will be a full report that will be generated. So I was trying to contact them to see if they had records of reports that perhaps had not been published, out there, reports that were internal, that perhaps they could release, for the purposes of this inquest. And so that's what I did. And I was not successful in my attempts, but I never specifically tried to find out why the old bridge was had to be abandoned and a new bridge built.
Ekuphenduleni kwami umbuzo wenkantolo ukuthi ke mhlambe njengonjiniyela kukhona yena engakwenza ukuphenya mhlambe ukubuza ke lapho ukuthi isizathu sokuye kwaleliya bloho elidala kusetshenziswe lelisha mhlambe isizathu okuyisona siphi cha inkosi enkantolo ngaba thinta ke lapha ka Transnet kodwa ngezizathu esihlukile kunalesi inhloso yami ngangifuna ukuthi ngithole kubona mayelana nembiko ke egcinwa ngaphakathi mhlambe make kwaba nesigameko noma ke ingozi thizene bekhona ukuthi mhlambe ngabe kukhona na leyo mbiko abayigcinile ke abanayo lapha kubona ke ngaphakathi ngale kwale esuke ke izokhishwa ke nje esidlangalaleni. Cha nayo lo mzamo yami ayizange ikwazi ukuthi iphumelele Nkosi enkantolo. Cha angibuzanga Nkosi enkantolo mayelana nodaba lokuthi ungani kungasetshenziswa kwashintsha ibhloko kwasetshenziswa elisha.
Do you think some vital forensic evidence was then lost through the, I don't want to say, the correct word would be the demolition of the old bridge, albeit in demolition in part? Wouldn't that lose some vital forensic evidence that we could use fruitfully today?
My Lord, there are two aspects of my answer to your question. The first one is that if you really needed details of the bridge, you could get them. You know, before bridges are constructed, they are drawn, they are designed and everything. So insofar as getting the details of the bridge themselves, you would not be at a disadvantage purely because physically it has been demolished.
Okay.
Yeah. On the second issue is that my speculation, it's a speculation,